Thank you, everyone. I think we're going to make a start there. Can still see some people trickling in. So thank you very much for everyone that's joining. I've got to say, firstly, it's an incredible turnout. We are quite excited about this one. It's not often you get to deliver something brand new. So new, in fact, that Workspace Protection from Sophos was only released to the public last week. So we're really, really hoping that we are the first partner bringing this to you. And yeah, hopefully it will be relevant to every single person on this call today. I know most of you know me by now, but the ones that don't, I better introduce myself. My name's Mike Hedges. I'm the Business Development Director here at Planet IT. Been with the business just over 13 years now. Started as a young apprentice way back way. And I think that QR code is to add me on LinkedIn, which you are more than welcome to do so. You can have a good giggle at how limited my career has been. Was literally just worked at Planet IT, was a window cleaner before that. And I kind of joke that I've gone from cleaning windows to just watching it update each day, which I don't know, which is more painful, to be honest. And we got Jason from Sophos, who I will hand over to shortly to go through the product and the service. And I promise he's got a far more illustrious career than me. We try and make these sessions as interactive as possible. Please, I appreciate this is obviously a brand new service, so there's bound to be a lot of questions. We do have a Q&A sort of there. We are going to pause at the end of this session to make sure we endeavour to answer all of them. The easy questions I might even tackle myself, and then the tricky, awkward ones I will put myself on mute and hope Jason steals in and saves the day there, Jace. No pressure. We've got a bit of a mixed audience when looking at the audience today, and some of you have worked with us extensively over the years and know us inside out, but there is still quite a lot of people on this webinar that have never worked with us before. So I'm going to try and summarise Planet IT as quick as I can in one slide. I suppose I'll start with the two gentlemen photoed in the back of this screen with the microphones. I promise you they're not singers that you hire at your wedding. They are the owners of Planet IT, Sean and Gavin. They're the co-founders, so they're school friends, local school friends based in Oxford. And they started the business 24 years ago this year. So we're really proud of the duration we've had at the company. In terms of the services we offer, there's kind of 5 key areas. I'll start with managed IT support because it is our biggest growth area. We kind of offer 2 flavors of managed IT support. We can either do a fully managed offering where you essentially outsource your IT to our fantastic internal help desk. The help desk range in quality from first to third line and have a backing of a 4th line senior team as well. But we also offer something called co-managed support, which is probably more relevant to most people on this webinar today. That is an extension to your internal team. The way we describe it is it's like growing your team without recruiting. And if you know what the recruitment market is like these days, that's been a very, very popular service. In terms of cybersecurity, we do see ourselves as experts as well, hence why we're doing a webinar the way we are today. When we started 20 years ago, we had to pick a bit of a niche to be competitive in the market, and the guys back security, and it's proven to be a very good horse to back because I'm not sure we would have ever predicted how ever evolving it is, and yeah, how many problems customers seem to have on a day-to-day basis. So yeah, we have professional services internally to help with that. And talking with professional services and IT projects, our internal engineers go to site or work remotely to work on your installations, migrations, and any implementations of IT projects you may have. We have a fantastic project management team as well that handhold you through that process. I think a number of you on this webinar have had that service before, and hopefully speak highly of our quality in that department. Hardware and software procurement. If you haven't got an account manager already, please feel free to drop me a message on LinkedIn or email me directly. I will assign you one. Our team is fantastic at dealing with your day-to-day requirements. In terms of software, we actually have a dedicated licensing team that sits separately from the account managers, and they're there to proactively look after your renewals and your agreements. So again, I'll introduce you should that be something that you're looking for following this. And then finally, backup and disaster recovery, probably the one area that keeps IT managers up at night the most. Within our help desk, we have a team that look after your backups proactively. They monitor and remediate issues. And from a disaster recovery point of view, we've been quite busy recently in engagements with our customers and our customers' senior leadership teams by doing sort of disaster recovery roundtables with them. We try and give people real life scenarios and put you in that God forbid moment when the scary stuff has happened, and just testing your processes and procedures on how well you can deal with that. So again, that's an engagement we offer. And finally, across the bottom, you'll see it on all of our email signatures. We're really, really proud to be recognised by the #1 best place to work. And for the last 2 years, have actually won a world-class place to work. Now, why do I think that's relevant? I'm not here to recruit you or ask for your CVs and come work at Planet. We've got the simple opinion that if the staff enjoy working for us, then hopefully clients will enjoy working with us. And we've got some fantastic clients. And this is just a few of the logos that we deal with. And I'm sure some of your logos are on there today. I think this mainly shows the kind of breadth of verticals we cover. So whether you're in education, whether you're in science and pharma, whether you're public sector, non-for-profit, corporate, you'll see some football teams in there, some fast food restaurants in there. We really do look after everyone in between. And then final slide from me before I hand over to Jason. Why are we doing this with Sophos? You'll see the crests on there. We've won many awards, but that isn't why we do it. It's a nice to have, but it's not why we do it. The reason we back Sophos is mainly because of their technology and their people, both of which are fantastic to work with. In terms of technology, personally, the reason I really enjoy introducing Sophos to clients is it tends to be modular, and it can integrate with many third parties. So, when you're in a conversation, they're not here to displace what you've got. They're actually trying to enhance the investments that you've already made. And what Jason's going to show today with the Workspace Protection, it's nice to know that it doesn't matter if you don't use Sophos currently. If you do, this will be a bolt-on to your existing subscription and sit in the same central platform with all your other products. But if you're new to Sophos, then that's fine. This can accompany the investments you've already made. So, Jason, I think that's me done. I'll stop sharing and hand over to you, mate.
Thanks very much, Mike. Let me just share my screen and then hopefully with the magic of Teams, people can see my my screen.
Got it, mate. Yeah.
Awesome. So thanks again, Mike. Let's kick off. So before we start talking about technology, just a few words about me. So I've been with Sophos for only, I think, 15 months now, but I have been working in the industry from, I think it was about March 1997 when floppy disks were the in thing. So I've worked for Dr. Solomon's, McAfee, many years, and yeah, it's been very interesting industry, constantly changing in terms of the technology, the challenges, and customers' environments. But yeah, enough about me. Let's talk about what we're here to talk about. And I like to start this when I'm introducing a technology, just to highlight what the problems are we're looking to solve. So just highlighting where we believe this solution is going to help customers deal with challenges that they have. Before I do that, just before I sort of play out these slides, I'll let people sort of guess at home what percentage of organisations have hybrid or remote workers. It's quite a lot. But currently it's around 2/3, but that's likely to go to the sort of 9 in 10 organisations. So that's, I think, after COVID, that's a given in a lot of organisations that at least a proportion of workers are going to be working remotely. Obviously, that adds challenges, all sorts of challenges, but that is a part of the overall problem. And the problem we're talking about here really is the fact that users are separated from the applications they access. Users can be in different locations. You could be in the office, you could be at home, you could be in a public space. The applications they access could be in the private cloud, it could be in a data center, it could be in the public cloud, or it could be a web application. So workers from different locations are accessing applications that sit in different locations. And that's just a fact of life. The challenge with this is, how do you actually go about protecting that? Given that workers are scattered and applications are scattered, how do you actually have a way of dealing with that in a simple way, in a cost-effective and in an efficient way? In terms of what the risk is to the organisation from that scenario, there's a whole number of different areas where things are at risk. The first is the applications that are being accessed. If workers are working in different locations, then the workers have to get access to those applications. And there's a number of ways in which they do that, but the key point there is that in some way that application has to be internet facing. Whether it's internet facing via just a website or a VPN or whatever, but it's accessible by people that have got the right details from the internet. And typically with an application, you've got data behind it. This is one of the key things that threat actors are looking to get access to. We know data is valuable to them in lots of different ways. We see ransomware is a growing industry. There's a lot of money to be made out of there, and that all starts with the data, getting access to it, stealing it, corrupting it, or whatever. And these days, a lot of organisations can't function correctly without that data. So that's a critical thing to protect. But it's not just that. Working devices, laptops, whatever, can be compromised. Identities can be compromised. And these days, a new threat vector is identity. So if you've not come across this phenomenon before, if a threat actor wants to get access to your organisation, they can do all sorts of clever things, create different types of malware, whatever. But a much easier way is simply using a stolen identity. So identities are really the new risk area for many organisations, not least because most organisations are not looking at identity. They might have the latest and greatest anti-malware technology or firewall technology or whatever, but they're probably not doing much in the space of identity. So a great way to get access into an organisation or to move laterally within an organisation. Guest access. So I'm sure a number of you will need to provide temporary access to resources that are corporate resources. So a question of how you do that safely, how you do that in a controlled manner without opening things up to everything. And then finally, the network. It may well be that in granting access to an application, you're also granting access to the network where other things live. And if you've stolen that identity, then you've got that capability of moving laterally within the organization. So your application may just be the way in which a threat actor gets into the organization. So those are the kind of things that we're looking at. Those are the kind of risks that we're looking at mitigating. So providing secure access, this is really a bit of a challenge. As we said, there's different types of applications and different locations. And if we think about traditionally how access has been controlled, it could be things such as zero trust network access, which if you're not familiar with that, this is really a secure way of delivering VPN access. VPN access is generally not particularly secure. We see a lot of instances of threat actors using VPNs to get access to a corporate network. So if you're using a VPN, certainly look at ZTNA. But that's one method, depending on where the user is, where the application is. CASB, another method where you're focusing on securing things or applications from within the cloud. And then web applications. You might have a user sitting in the office that's accessing a website. These all typically need different tools. So you've got a lot of tools, you've got lots of configuration, and you can end up with different user experiences. And what you want to do, if you possibly can, is you want things to be the same. You don't want to have to users to do different things depending on where they're sitting. Either way, there are solutions, but it's a bit of a mishmash today. And with those, thinking about those solutions, some of the challenges are you're buying multiple solutions. So that's costing multiple licenses, potentially from different vendors. and you've got to manage, maintain, monitor all of those solutions. So they're expensive. Backhauling. So backhauling is the idea that we're going to deliver security from a central point. In order to do that, the traffic needs to hit that central point. So you can imagine a situation, I'm sitting in Starbucks, I want to access a SaaS application, perhaps it's Salesforce or Workday or something that's sitting on the internet. Backhauling says that rather than going from Starbucks to Salesforce, I'm going from Starbucks back to my corporate HQ or data center, and then up to Salesforce. It's very inefficient. It has latency. It increases the network traffic. You can have bottlenecks. It's a very poor way of doing things. So that's backhauling. Typically today, pretty much every application that you're accessing, the traffic's encrypted. So if you want to inspect that, it's difficult. You need to be sitting in the middle with a certificate. You need to distribute certificates. You've got to break the flow of data. You have to scan it and reassemble it. It's slow. It has latency. And again, it's not a great user experience. And then finally, as we said, lots of tools, lots of consoles, not a connected world at all. So those are challenges with the conventional way that of securing workforce access to applications sitting in different locations. So pop quiz here. Again, think about this at home. What percentage of organizations have adopted a SASE solution? Now, before you answer that question, the cyber industry is renowned for creating three-letter acronyms. We've got so many three-letter acronyms. We thought we'd go a little different here. It's a four-letter acronym. But in case you're not aware of what SASE is, it refers to Secure Access Service Edge. And it's a relatively modern, so this is going back to 2019. A modern way, it's a modern framework that aims to connect networks with security in order to deliver a secure solution for user access to resources. So going back to that pop quiz, the proportion of organizations, can move my slides on, the proportion of organizations, well, sorry, before we do that, in terms of where it sits in between. So it sits in between the user, wherever they're located, and the application they're accessing. So this is exactly the kind of solution that you want. It solves the challenge. But going back to that question now, 8% of organizations have adopted this type of solution. And they tend to be larger organizations. And the reason is all of those reasons given earlier. It's expensive, it's inefficient, it's costly to run. It's not that great at scanning the traffic because of the encryption element of it. So it's not a popular solution by any means. So what we're looking to do is solve that challenge, but do it in a way that addresses the problems that existing SASE solutions typically have. So what we'd like to do is to provide a solution for workers, that delivers security to most of their working day. So if we think about how a user is working, a lot of the time it's through a web browser. And obviously that web browser is reaching out, it is going to lots of places on the internet, some of them that are secure, some of them are less secure, but a user is typically spending a huge part of their day accessing those resources through their web browser, so accessing email, but a lot of it's through a web browser. So going back to the problems with existing SASE solutions, we'd like to deliver a solution which doesn't require cloud infrastructure, doesn't require you to redirect traffic and manage that redirected traffic, to give a user an experience which is the same wherever they're based. So if it's a coffee shop or in the office or wherever, they get that same user experience when accessing the same resources. We'd like to make traffic inspection easier. So rather than breaking the sort of sitting in the middle of a flow of traffic and unencrypting it, scanning it, re-encrypting it, actually scan it where it's already unencrypted. And the perfect place to do that is in the browser. You know, when traffic arrives, before it's sent, it's in an unencrypted format. So that seems to be the ideal place to scan. And obviously, if you're scanning at the browser, this is a solution that very easily scales because the work is being done locally on every endpoint. You haven't got to think, okay, you know, we've got double the number of users that are now trying to access a particular resource, so we need to increase the bandwidth available, or think about faster devices. This is done locally, so it scales naturally by delivering and using resources that are sitting on the endpoint. And finally, a solution that's easy, that's used in a single console. Mike mentioned it earlier on, but at Sophos, there's very much a mentality of, if you can possibly do it in one place. You get the benefit of familiarity, of reusing resources. Obviously, Sophos Central is the resource we're talking about here. You're familiar with the way it works. And also, it gives us the ability to share information between products that are sitting on that same platform. So that's a big focus of what we're doing in terms of delivering a secure workspace protection. So giving you an idea of what it consists of, there's a number of different elements of it, and this is designed to provide protection in different places, in different ways, but in a unified format for users. So this is the kind of thing that you can do with it. Some of you might be familiar with our existing Zero Trust network access solution, which allows you to provide pinpoint access to resources rather than VPN access, which opens up opens up the network to potential abuse. So ZTNA is a part of this solution, but we've integrated it within the browser. We've also integrated other capabilities within the browser. So this is designed to make things not only easier for the user, because it's in one place, it's not different tools for different things, but also to make things secure, because it's not a case of adding things on here, adding things on there. It's built together. Talking about the browser and the security, we know the browser is a target for attackers, because if I can lure a user to a particular location, a website or a web application that I own, then I've got connectivity. If I can then exploit the browser, I can get access to at least some of those users' resources. So absolutely essential to have a hardened browser. And the way in which we do that, so we take the engine behind the Island enterprise browser technology. It's not a case of we're reselling Island, the Island enterprise browser. We are taking the engine behind it. So it's got some great capabilities in terms of controlling traffic. It's based on the Chromium browser. So if you're using Edge or using Chrome, it's based on that exact same technology that's behind those two browsers, but it's built in a secure manner. So we love that element of it. That's great. But what we've also done is looked at how Sophos can supplement that by building in technologies. So this isn't a case of taking the browser and plugging things in, because obviously if you plug in protection, you can unplug it. And you've got challenges around something changes, is it compatible, is it designed for it, etc., when you have a plug-in technology. But when you build the technology in, then it's actually part of the solution. So we've added sort of to the basic Island browser, we've added things like central management. You've got that access through Sophos Central. Threat intelligence is built into the browser. We've added in, as I mentioned earlier, ZTNA. So it's all within the browser. So this is taking the engine, the Island engine, which is very well respected, and building it into a new Sophos product. So that's another element of it. We've also got SaaS control. So the ability to use this to control access to your SaaS applications. And also within here, we include data controls and boundary controls. Talk about that in this next box. We know a lot of organizations are concerned about what users are sharing, particularly with, for example, AI based applications where, corporate data may be shared inadvertently with an AI engine, which may then go on to use that data for other purposes. So one of the elements of the protected browser is the ability to limit what users can do with data in terms of adding it to the browser, removing it from the browser, sharing it between browser applications. So there's an additional layer of control that's built into there, which is, in simple terms, it's going to stop users uploading your corporate information that you really didn't want them to upload. Secure web and DNS. So this is another element. So the idea with this is that for your device to access anything on the internet, it typically needs to perform a DNS lookup. So if we can control that DNS lookup, we can control access to what that device is able to access, whether it's through one browser or another browser or non-browser applications, things like command line tools. So curl or wget are command line tools that can retrieve web content, which browser-based security is not even going to see because it's not part of your browser. So here, by using DNS as a control point, we can very easily control where each device can connect to. And that gives us a few benefits. First of all, it is that control point. Secondly, it stops that DNS request, which is typically will be in plain text. It stops it being monitored and tampered with, because when we're doing this, we're using HTTPS as that DNS request rather than conventional DNS. So it's another layer of security. Email monitoring. So the actual suite itself includes a tool that will sit on top of your existing email security solution, and it'll tell you if there's anything being missed. And that's always an interesting one, because organizations obviously invest in security in lots of areas. Interesting to know, is your email solution actually doing everything you hope it's doing? And it's difficult to tell that, but with a solution that sits on top, it's a very simple thing to do. It doesn't interfere with the email, doesn't change the email, doesn't block the email anyway. It's simply monitoring to see whether malicious or suspicious emails get through your existing solution. So it's a great sort of checkup, if you like. All of that managed by Sophos Central, benefits from the Sophos Cloud in terms of threat intelligence, etc. And the installation process is very, very simple, as I hope you come to expect if you're a user of Sophos products. So that's the overall element of what it gives. It gives you protection, it's easy to deploy, and it's a very affordable option. Mike will talk about licensing a little bit later, but you can get set up and get this working in a few minutes. It's not a difficult thing to do, not a costly thing. And just sort of covering off, thinking about some use cases where this might help. So I'm not going to go through all of these, but these are some examples of where a secure browser, in combination with the other products within the Workspace Protection Suite, can deliver on implementing security. I'll touch on a few of these, but yeah, there's many elements to how we can help allow users to work in a secure manner. So a couple of these. So remote work, typically most organisations that we saw have got an element of remote work, or will have. So the big thing here is it's that idea of one experience for the user. So it's seamless. The user just does what they need to do to work, and whether they're working on corporate location or at another location, they've got the same policies applied in the same way. They do exactly the same things. They don't have to accept the fact that things are going to be different because they're in a coffee shop, or they're going to be harder because they're working at home. they're not in the office. It's the same user experience. It also means you get the ability to sort of control in a very granular form who can access what, which again can make it harder for threat actors if they've compromised one device to compromise the whole network. So it gives you that control, and that reduces the attack surface. So it makes it harder for a threat actor to be successful within your environment. And to deliver on that, we're using four different elements of the Sophos Workspace Protection bundle. Other examples, secure access to applications. So if you've got VPN access, typically you're opening up a large portion of the network, which, if a user is a trusted user and they've got a device that hasn't been compromised, then that's absolutely fine. But if that identity has been stolen and that VPN to be accessed, or that device that that trusted user is connecting with has been compromised, then that VPN access can really open up the ability for an attacker to gain further access into your environment. So by using zero trust network access, we can say this group of users on these devices that have this protection in place, so all three of these criteria need to be met, are allowed access, but only to this set of applications. So you're making everything else invisible to everybody. You're granting them minimum access that you need to. And within there, you can enforce multi-factor authentication. So it really gives you a very high level of control to your applications. And sort of finishing on this use case, all about AI. We know AI is constantly changing. It's phenomenally clever at doing some things. It's not so clever at doing other things. But yeah, it's got huge potential. Many organizations are using AI, some of them without them knowing that they're using AI, because we have an element of shadow IT. So if you're looking at how you can effectively control access to AI, then again, this is an area where we can help. So using a combination of workspace protection and potentially ZTNA, you can control where users can go and what they can do. Actually, it's gone backwards, hasn't it? Sophos Protected Browser and Sophos DNS Protection. You can control where users can go in the world of AI, which applications they can access. You can instantly monitor which applications are being accessed, and that's always a great approach. If you're looking at blocking things, it's really important to understand what's being used normally, because you don't want to stop business working. So understanding what people are accessing before you put controls in place. It also gives you an idea of the size of the problem and the benefits that the protection can give you. But it allows you to control where people can go and what they can do once they get to those locations. And that's using, as I say, it's a combination of DNS protection to limit where a workspace or a workstation can go to, but also the protected browser to limit what they can do when they get to that location. So lots of other things that we can deliver, but that just gives you an idea. Hopefully that's given you some food for thought. But yeah, if you've got any questions, we'd love to answer them.
Thanks. There has been a couple of questions dropped in. I'll kickstart with one around Intune, actually, mate. So the question was, can we use Intune to manage the Sophos browser? Something as simple as a home page or pushing out extensions. Can that be done?
Okay, that's a good question. In terms of deploying it through Intune, no problem at all. In terms of managing it through Intune, I don't know, Mike. It's a great question, but let's get back on that one. I would imagine so, because this is essentially browser configuration. So I would imagine so, but I don't know for certain. So yeah, we'll come back on that and we'll confirm that.
I've noted who it is, and yeah, we'll drop you an email. The next one was Does Sophos Workspace do anything to prevent users sidestepping shadow AI usage restrictions put in place by just using another browser? So, for example, Microsoft Edge.
Yeah, great question. I think there's a couple of answers to this. So just to let people know that one of the next stages of development are browser plugins. So yeah, there will be in the future the ability to drop a plugin into existing browsers, but obviously that doesn't deliver the same hardening. That'll deliver the control but not the hardening. So that is a way of doing it, but it's a really good question. How can I stop somebody simply using a different browser? The browser itself can't do that, but for example, if you're using Sophos Endpoint, that can impose application control, and one of the things that can do is to control what browser applications can be used. So you could do it very easily with Sophos application control, which is part of the Sophos Endpoint product. But that's not the only product that can do it. So any application, and this could be group policy, for example, could be used to block certain applications. It's perhaps a little bit messier than using Sophos Endpoint, but yeah. A number of endpoint solutions can block certain applications, and yeah, group policy or any other method. And the challenge here is it isn't that we wouldn't want to do it, it's no way that the browser itself has got the way of stopping other browsers running. You need to be running at the sort of system level to do that. Yeah, great question.
Cheers, Jace.
Having said that, just one other thing on that. Sorry, Mike. With DNS protection, even whatever browser you're using, you can still limit access to where you can go from that machine. So because that's working at a DNS level, it doesn't matter what browser's being used. You can, for example, say, okay, this device can only go to this AI site. So yeah, and that is because the DNS protection is working at the system level. Sorry, Mike. Yeah.
That's all good. A two-pronged one. If I have a VPN, why do I need ZTNA? I also have web protection already. Why do I need DNS protection?
Yeah, great. So a lot of organizations do have VPN access. The challenge there typically is that you are saying, okay, I'm going to allow this device that's sitting remotely, potentially at risk, to access my network, rather than I want this device to be able to access this resource. So yeah, the aim is to access the resource, but the access is typically delivered much more widely. And the challenge with that is that the greater the attack surface, the more chance you are of being compromised. So, a very common method, for example, of initially accessing an organization is through the VPN. And it's not because the attackers are targeting the application that the user's trying to get to with the VPN. It's because the VPN is opening access to the whole network. So it's much more secure if you can say, if you need access to one application, then give the user and the device access to just that one application. Makes it much harder for threat actors to compromise it. That's first question. Second question is really around this, that question of so the question was around browsers. Why do I need this if my browser is secure or if my browser is protected? I mentioned earlier that technologies that plug into browsers are great because they allow you to get additional capability and security. But one of the challenges there is that you're not actually making the browser more secure. You're simply limiting potentially what the user can access. So having a browser that's secure means that not only are you providing all that security, and you're building the capabilities into the browser, which means it's typically much quicker and it's better integrated. But the actual browser itself becomes more secure. So there's multiple benefits of switching to a secure browser.
Cool. There's one I can take on. How is this licensed? Pretty simply, it is done on a per user basis. So, they're not looking at number of devices. It is done per user. If you are an existing Sophos client, we can obviously co-term with your existing agreement as well. And there is also an option to trial this, Jace, if I'm correct. And
there is indeed.
That'll probably be the next action for most people on this call, is to sort of reach out to either myself or an account manager and kickstart a free trial and give it a whirl yourself, and go from there. There's another question here. Is there any plans for Sophos protected browser on Android/iOS, or is it just Windows only?
Yep, there are plans, absolutely. It's on the roadmap. So typically when we're releasing new technology, we're focusing on the sort of the major use cases, and Windows browsers are obviously the sort of probably the most widely used, or Windows devices most widely used. So that's where we'll be targeting first. But absolutely, Android and iOS devices, we are working on the equivalent solution for those products. The other thing, just to sort of pick up on the fact you talked about sort of trialing the solution. Another thought maybe within the organization, maybe some users need to have special access or more risky access to network resources, or there may be a greater risk themselves because of where they work. So another option is that, because this is per user licensing, if you think there's going to be a benefit, you could trial that and then test that in production by using, get a handful of licenses, see what how users feel about it, see how, the extra security you get. Very simple thing to do. And yeah, it's, as I say, you can start very small and grow. You don't need to sort of say, okay, we're going to do everything on day one.
Cool. Final question, because I'm conscious of time, and it is the final question on here. Do I need Sophos endpoint already to use this, Jace?
Yes, absolutely you don't. So this is a totally standalone solution, in as much as this is all you need to use it. If you have Sophos endpoint, great. Bigger, there's benefits, extra benefits, but you don't need it. No, so it'll stand by itself.
Fantastic. And that's kind of what I was leaning on at the start of the call, that the way Sophos are working at the moment, they are wanting to integrate with third parties. Unlike some vendors, they're not asking you to displace the investments you've already made and start using their services and products. Thanks for that, Jace. I just need to plug our next event. This was really, really useful last year. We had an amazing turnout, and we've actually almost got this fully booked. So last year we did this AZ900 Microsoft Azure Fundamentals workshop at the Said Business School, which is part of the University of Oxford. It is right by the train station, so we did have people come from all over the country to join it last year, and it was so successful. We're going to do it across 2 days. So we've got the 29th and the 30th booked of April. If you scan that QR code, you can get yourself on there. Just to highlight, this workshop, should we charge for it, would be retailing at around £1,200, and we are doing it free of charge for our customers. So for joining this webinar or being a Microsoft customer of us, you qualify for the AZ900 Fundamentals workshop. So yeah, we look forward to hosting you on that one if you can get yourself signed up. That's everything from today. Thank you very much for joining. I would say the next action is to reach out to your account manager if they don't reach out to you first, and try and arrange some next steps. As Jason sort of alluded to, I think trialing this in anger would be a really good next step, and it'll be free of charge to do so. So thank you, Jason, for joining us, and thank you everyone for taking the time today. Take care.